If you've ever wondered why some people are calm and strategic under pressure while others get frazzled and frantic and have to work twice as hard to keep up, the difference is in their capacity. If you give me a couple of minutes, I'm going to explain what capacity actually is and why it determines whether your career progresses or whether it plateaus, and what capacity looks like when it becomes a constraint. So most people hear the word capacity in this context and they assume that it means time or energy. How much time you have, how many hours you've got, or how rested you feel. What's your energetic baseline like? But that's not what I mean. Capacity, in the context that I use it within Project Tempest, is your nervous system's ability to support 4 key things simultaneously: strategic thinking, clear decision making, emotional regulation, and sustained performance under pressure. When capacity is intact, those things come naturally. You make decisions quickly. You can see the big picture. You can stay composed. You start to absorb pressure without it changing how you show up. But when capacity is compromised, these things require a lot more effort. You can still produce the outputs, but it takes a lot more from you to produce them. And that increased effort over time becomes visible. And that's the piece that matters for this conversation. Because capacity doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects how you read to all the people watching you. And that's a critical distinction, because in high pressure professional roles, advancement isn't necessarily determined by quality of output. It's not necessarily determined purely on results. It's determined by what leadership believes that you can handle. What can you absorb at the next level? The question being asked, often without anyone naming it explicitly, is, does this person have margin? Is there a visible reserve? Could she carry more without straining or breaking? When capacity is intact, the answer is an easy yes. Even with a heavy workload, even with a high stress situation, there's still a quality of composure, there's an unhurried precision, and that signals that this person is operating within their range. But when capacity is compromised, even excellent work will read differently. The effort is visible, the compensation strategies start to show, people can see it. It reads as you're at your limit. You're not incapable, you're not underperforming, but you are at your ceiling. And that distinction between performing well and appearing to have capacity for more is what separates people on the partnership track from the people who just stay stuck despite being consistent and producing strong results. So most people, when they realise that this is a problem, they'll try and respond with performance tools. They'll use productivity systems, they'll use better time management, they'll get stricter with prioritization, they'll work on their discipline, their mindset. These aren't wrong, these are important things to work on, but they're addressing the wrong thing at the wrong time. Performance is a function of capacity, and if capacity is the constraint, then performance tools will not resolve it. They're just optimizing within a broken infrastructure. You just start to become more efficient at compensating, which can mask the problem long enough for it to compound. Think of it this way. Capacity is the foundation. Performance is what you build on top. You don't fix failing foundations by optimizing what's above it. You fix the foundations. Fix the foundations before you build anything else on top. The system I use to address this is called the R4 protocol. It's 4 phases. They are sequenced based on the specific order that I deliver them in, but we also do change the order depending on the individual and their specific constraint, because what you may need will differ from what someone else needs. So the order matters, but it can be changed to suit the person and their constraint. Generally, reset is first. We want to interrupt the chronic activation. We want to calm the nervous system down. If you've been carrying a sustained state of physiological overload for months and sometimes even years, which is common in high-performing women in demanding roles, you can't do anything about that. You can't build on top of it. You've got to interrupt it first. Then we look at recovery. How can we restore the physiological systems that chronic activation has degraded? A lot of these things seem basic, but they're important. Sleep being one of them. We need ideal sleep architecture. We need recovery practice infrastructure. All of these things help to restore the nervous system's function. Regulation is third. Usually this is where we start to see the results. It's where chronic activation has been interrupted, the nervous system is beginning to stabilize, you'll see decision speed returning, composure comes back, strategic thinking requires less effort. This is where we see the visible shifts. And then that's where we lead into phase 4, which is resilience. It's where you start to build tolerance for future pressure. You're not just white knuckling through it anymore, you're not just compensating. We're building genuine physiological capacity to hold more load without it changing how you operate. That's what creates the margin that leadership will read as readiness. The sequence is not arbitrary. We will generally try and run it in that order unless you have a specific requirement that means we change it, because you can't build resilience without resetting first. You can't build resilience until you have recovery strategies in place. It just doesn't work. So when you start to run this and you use this sequence and you complete it correctly, you start to increase your capacity. Strategic thinking returns. And not because you've worked on your mindset, you've not improved your ability to think, you've just improved the cognitive systems required for it. They're no longer offline, they're back online. So you can do what you've always been able to do with ease. The decision quality improves. Decisions that used to take you hours and hours ruminating, trying to figure out all the variables, will come quicker because you're not fatigued, you're not running on an overloaded system, you're not getting into that obsessive mode where you don't know what outcome. You can trust yourself, your skills, your knowledge, your experience. Composure stabilizes. You stop operating from that compensation and you operate from capacity. The effort disappears. You become more present. And that's how it reads. It starts to shift. And it's not because you've performed differently. It's not because you've upskilled. It's not because you've changed your mindset. It's not because you've discovered some fancy secret. It's because you've changed the operating state that you're performing from. If you want a full breakdown of this framework, including an assessment that will show you what your current capacity constraint is, then I've got a free training for that. You don't need to opt in. You don't need to pay for it. Nothing like that. It's called the Capacity Catalyst Workshop. You'll find the link down there. Click on it. Go watch the training so you can go deeper into this. Do the capacity assessment. Figure out where you're at now.